Maruti Suzuki's People Technology presents Suzuki Connect with Navigate to Car and many other features.
Watch more, feel more. Dell.
Well, it's not the first game in this tournament where the hype and the expectation has perhaps outlived the actual performance. 125 is all that Australia have managed. England would take that, you think, for the third time in this T20 World Cup going into a half-time break. This is Maruti Suzuki Presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout, powered by Dell. Ajit, Agarkar, Mahela, Jayawardene, Tom Moody, all with me. Tom, how would you sum up that Australia innings?
Very ordinary, to be quite frank. Obviously there was a little bit of movement, so it was challenging in the first couple of overs. But I just felt that we were loose. We didn't really have a purpose in those first 6 overs. And to be fair, it wasn't until right towards the back end of the innings that the Australians showed any sort of intent to try to get a competitive total. There's a couple of lusty blows at the end that they managed to scramble to some sort of total over 120, but still it was a very, very disappointing performance.
Did I just get a wee out of you for speaking from the Australian? That heart still beats for Australia, Tom Moody, in spite of where it's been all over the
world? Well, I still think my passport's Australian.
All right, fair enough. Let's not forget, although Tom Moody is almost the son of these parts of the soil, Mahela Jayawardene, was it really that hard to bat? Sometimes teams make it look like that, don't they?
No, I think England had showed that, with the new ball, they've got some good skills, especially with Vokes, who's going to, move the ball, like set for a couple of overs. But after that, we saw that, it wasn't much. Rashid always going to create few opportunities for England, and the Australian batsmen, didn't, see that through. So I honestly think that, like Tom said, it was pretty ordinary up front, and then after that they managed to scramble through. But I don't see any demons on that wicket. It just, you need to plan yourself and give yourself that first 3-4 overs, build partnerships, get yourself to that 12-14 over mark. And then look to accelerate the way the last few batsmen batted, and they were tail enders. It was easier to hit once the ball gets older. So if you set yourself up, 160, 170 is probably a pass score on that.
55 all out against the West Indies, Ajit. 124 for 9 against Bangladesh. Now 125 for 9 against Australia. Still, it doesn't seem like we start these shows praising England's bowling all right. Now, is that unfair on my part, or is that just a reflection of how their oppositions have been?
I think a bit of both, but their bowling's been good. It's quite organized, and in spite of not having someone like a Jofra Archer who can clearly be a match winner on his day, there's enough in that lineup. I think Adil Rashid was good. There was a little bit of grip in the surface, and none of the Australian batsmen seemed to read him at all from his hand. So that makes your job even harder. The seamers were really good. Whatever little movement, and the ball has done a bit. This IPL, we didn't see any swing or any movement really. But throughout this T20 World Cup, we've seen certainly some swing, and every now and then, if there is a little bit of freshness in the pitch, it has nipped around. But it's not a 125 pitch. I think Mahela and Tom both said that. Australia were very disappointed. I think just too many wickets lost up front, and already a batsman left out in Mitch Marsh. Fortunately, the lower order did contribute. So they've got some runs on the board, but unless something miraculous happens or Australia have a unbelievable day with the ball, this is well below par.
You felt like this with the runs in the last game from David Warner, Tom, would have been a cornerstone moment. Maybe that would have changed things around. Why is it that Australia can't string a couple of performances, strong, solid batting performances together?
I think it's down to form. I think you look at Finch, for instance. Finch hasn't been in form with the Australian side for some time. We know that he scored a 30, 35, I think it might have been in the last game. He hung around in his innings today, but you wouldn't have said he played with any fluency. You wouldn't sort of, look at it and think, oh, wow, Finch looks in great form. David Warner, yes, he scored some runs in the last game, but you also got to remember he could have and probably should have been dismissed for 18. So he had a life there. He got a good ball today, and you've got every right to get a good ball and nick off. It doesn't matter how good a player you are. You are going to get a good ball from time to time. More often than not, you play and miss those. But I think the Australian team, the batting is just lacking a little bit of confidence, and that's what really surprised me about the fact that they left out Mitch Marsh, because what it did is it put just so much more pressure on those batsmen that really aren't at their peak of their powers. They're not sort of all, scoring runs, regularly, and they're playing with freedom, and they're playing that sort of, brand of cricket that you desperately hope. And to be fair, the brand of cricket that England are playing, you look at England's batting order, they're playing that type of very confident, free-spirited brand. It doesn't surprise me at all to see them struggle, particularly when the ball was starting to do a little bit. Rashid bowled well, and it was also surprising to see the Australians really struggle to read him, because he has been around for some time. Australians have played against him on a regular basis, but they seem totally bemused with his wrong 'un.
Does that selection look worse now at halftime, Mahela? The fact that they didn't replace one of the informed batters that they did have in Mitch Marsh with an outright bat seemed to change the balance of the team. Tossed and go their way. It looks pretty awful now at halftime.
Yeah, and why it's so strange is that Australia has been playing good cricket. They've been winning matches. So when you're winning matches, you don't need to tinker too much. Yes, you might say that okay, we are under pressure with that fifth bowler option, but like look, for example, I mean, once you get early wickets, and which Australia also has a very good pace attack up front, a fifth bowler like Liam Livingstone could come into play and bowl 4 overs for 15 runs. And the same thing could happen. I mean, just because the fifth bowler was punished in the last game, you don't go into a game doubting that option, because that, with Mitch Marsh in there, that power hitting ability and an informed batsman always gives you that confidence. So I think teams sometimes determine that situations might arise and make these kind of changes, and especially when you're winning matches, when you make changes, and if you lose today, Australia will be in a much tougher situation to think whether she should go back again or not, because that means none of the guys have had a proper outing, and creating much more internal situations, and those things can be easily avoided.
I mean, I understand they lost early wickets, Ajit, but Livingston going for 15 of his 4 overs. I think Wade and Finch were still batting when he came on. Now, is that being harsh on Australia? We're trying to rebuild, or is that still something which just doesn't sit down well? The fifth bowler, the part-time bowler, going at 3.75.
Yeah, but that's exactly, I mean, what we're discussing with Marsh not there. There's one batter less, and even though Cummins and Ashnagar and Stark, those guys can contribute, you don't want to leave them too many overs to do that. The rebuilding will have to be done by the batsmen, so they had to be a little bit more conservative than perhaps they would have been against someone like Livingston. England didn't have to use the fifth bowler, sorry, the sixth bowler at all.
Yeah.
So clearly they were under no pressure. Too many wickets up front, 4 wickets. Which changed the batting order as well. Maxwell walked out far too early for my liking. But yeah, I mean, once England made the inroads, Australia just couldn't find a way out. Only towards the end did they put some sort of pressure on the bowling.
Fair enough. Let's give more credit to Chris Wokes, shall we? Who's evolved into quite the T20 bowler, Ajit. You like what you've seen of him in the absence of a Ben Stokes, Sam Curran? He's the all-rounder that carries them.
Yeah, and just quietly under the radar a little bit. No one talks about him as a T20 bowler, but you know what you're going to get from him, just consistency. And if there is a little bit of nip or some sort of swing available, he's always going to be one of those guys who will pick up wickets because of that movement that he gets, the length that he bowls. He's fairly straight at you as well, and he's quite brisk. I mean, no one talks about it, but there is enough zip behind his ball. He's not one of the medium fast bowlers. He's certainly a fast medium bowler. So any sort of mistake by the batsman up front, he is likely to pick up wickets. And Morgan used him well, as gave him three up front, which they needed to. And Australia, the two openers got some runs in the previous game, but you can still see they're looking for form. Finch spent such a long time at the crease, but never looked as fluent as he has done in the past. So excellent from England, especially with the new ball. they put Australia under pressure straight away.
Yeah, I wonder if someone was in an important position in an IPL franchise, how hard they'd go for Chris Wokes at the next auction. Thank God we don't have anyone like that on this panel. But let's ask Tom Moody and Mahela what they make independently of Chris Wokes, the T20 bowler. Mahela?
I mean, he's always been around. I mean, the last few years he had few injuries and other things to worry about, and England obviously protected him because he's a huge factor for them in Test match cricket. Gives them that balance with number 7 and 8. In one-day cricket, he's a regular in the England lineup, and England is actually spoiled for a lot of good bowling options. I mean, you're looking about Sam Curran, Ben Stokes, uh,
Archer.
Archer, and Wood missing, and even Willie has been knocking on the door. They've got a lot of good T20 bowling options available. So I think credit to Chris Wokes. He's actually improved. He's got more options in his armory. He's got a good knuckle ball which he uses up front as well now. If at all, it's just the depth that he struggles a bit, but we know that he's a different type of bowler. You use him up front to pick up wickets with the new ball and maybe one in the middle. So, I mean, he can bat. He's a great package to have. He's a good number 7 or 8, good fielder. So yeah, I mean, he's one of the premier packages in T20 cricket.
He seems to have worked towards becoming a more effective or valuable T20 bowler, Tom. He even kept Andrik Nokia out of the Delhi Capitals side in the first half of the IPL. Has there been anything different about Wokes, the bowler, that's evolved over the last few years that you've noticed?
Look, I think that Mahela hit the nail on the head, I thought, right at the beginning of his comment, and that is he's been challenged with injury. So his career in all formats has been stunted because of his battle with injury. And I know that he continues to battle with knee problems now. So, that's why he hasn't had, I suppose, the regular opportunity and success in T20 cricket is purely because he can't stay on the ground long enough. But he's a very skillful bowler. He's a very skillful cricketer, full stop, because he is more than handy down the order. But he's a very skillful bowler where he can bowl, genuine wicket-taking deliveries with a new ball, can swing the new ball, which is worth its weight in gold. If you've got a quick bowler that can swing it early in those power play overs, that's an absolute bonus. And he's got the change of pace, and he's got enough pace to be able to bother, batsmen down the order. So he's a good package when fit.
All right, let's leave it there then. 126 to get. Come on, Tom, give me a funky, creative prediction so that you guys can make a game out of this.
Oh, gosh. England 4 down for 27 at the end of the power play, and then we've got a game.
Mahela, how likely is that to happen?
It's highly unlikely. I know it's quite late in Tom's part of the world. It's probably dream. So, the England top order has been in pretty decent form. They bat deep. They're a very good team. We're going to see that new ball through, and it's going to be quite easy for them.
Yeah, at least they've got the extra bowling option, Ajit.
They do. I'm not sure they need it tonight, though. If they dismiss the 2 openers cheaply, you mean 10 or 15 or 20 runs, who knows? There might be a little bit more pressure on England in the middle order because Australia bowling attack's pretty good. So, but they'll need to get those 2 out.
All right, if we go any longer, the chase will probably be done. So let's wrap it up here. Tom Moody, Ajit Agarkar, and Mahela Jayawardene. More from you at the end of what is an important game, even if it turns out to be one-sided, because the fate of Group 1 would be decided by how results went today. South Africa have picked up important points. England would have 1 foot in the semi-final with 3 wins out of 3. So would Australia if they are to do something special with the ball. So let's pick up the chat then on Maruti Suzuki Presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout powered by Dell.
Maruti Suzuki's People Technology presents Suzuki Connect with Navigate to Car and many other features.
Watch more, feel more, Dell.